Second. Okay.
Hey everybody, it's Gary Vaynerchuk, CEO of VaynerX and VaynerMedia. Really excited about this LinkedIn Live with EY, and really excited about Avery and Lisa leading the way from our respective organizations. But before we get into those lovely ladies and their thoughts, just a quick little recap of what was going on at Cannes 2024. Number one, AI. A lot of hyperbole, a lot of misunderstanding, and a lot of thoughtful conversations. So a mix of the two, like there always is with new technology. Just very clear that that's in the air. Number two, creative and social finally being respected. You know, even though we're giving awards away for above the line, a lot more conversation of creative excellence and social to mitigate your risk in media spend and above the line campaigns. We're starting to get it in social, and that was exciting. And then number three, and finally, influencers, creators. Interchangeable names, some people see semantics in it, but the rise of influencer marketing and the importance clearly on everyone's tip of the tongue. Hope you enjoy this live event, and we'll see you next time.
Wow, what a kickoff from Gary. Thank you so much, Lisa and Jose, for joining us. This is gonna be really fun. Have y'all recovered from Cannes yet? That's my first question.
Can you recover from Cannes? I think physically you can start to get there and get the sleep up, but like what we learned there is just so phenomenal. Now it's like kind of up to us to figure out what we're going to take forward.
Yeah, physically, yes. Mentally, I'm still somewhere in the thought bubble.
You're still in the palais. Okay, let's have a little, let's kick off with a little round of introductions. We are streaming live across Vayner's channels. So on LinkedIn, on YouTube, etc., Instagram. Thank you everybody who's tuning in. Whether you were lucky enough to be at Cannes or not, we wanted to put together some of our sort of key takeaways. I'm Avery, I'm the CMO at Vayner, and I'm joined by two of our wonderful friends from EY. Lisa, why don't we start off with you?
Happy to. So Lisa Peterson, I am the Chief Marketing Officer for EY Consulting in the Americas. And I am joined by my colleague, Jose.
Hi, everybody. Jose Reyes. I'm the Chief Creative Officer for EY in the Americas, also in consulting.
Amazing. Well, I'm really excited, Jose, to get your perspective as sort of the creative lead. Probably mentally you're still in the palais, but there were so many really interesting things that happened at Cannes. And we thought it'd be really fun just to sort of share that out with people who are doing their roundups or doing their diligence. Because I think there were a bunch of key themes that emerged last year that are really interesting, whether you're a marketer, a business builder, a creative. Everyone, has been reaching out and saying, what did you all think about Cannes? What were the hot things? And Gary just shared three that are top of mind for him that we'll have reflected in this little deck. But first, I'll just sort of share a recap of Cannes Lion 2024. On the Vayner boat, where we were lucky enough to have our friends from EY all week, we had what we'd call the best and brightest in culture and marketing to strike up real conversations around day trading attention. So we have this iconic disco ball, which is always a fan favorite. We convened everybody there at night, during the day, from morning, and team, if you want to advance the slide, from morning to night, we had like 8 a.m. to 3 a.m. nonstop, just absolute fun happening on the VaynerX yacht. We had 16 different CMOs join us for our Marketing for the Now Cannes edition. We had 28 live events. We had 800 guests from different 220 global brands. And we had over 1 million earned impressions across VaynerX and VaynerMedia social handles. So it was a week. It was a very busy week. I think I'm still mentally recovering and having my coffee right here. And, we also had the distinct pleasure to host a number of different icons, from Sophia Bush to the Kelsey brothers to Deepak Chopra, Carmelo Anthony, et cetera, et cetera. So it was an action-packed week. And we also were able to host, hundreds of brand guests, which was really special. So hearing them, whether it was at our CMO circles or at our panels, kind of give their perspective of what's actually happening in the industry, ultimately really helped us shape what we sort of picked up out of the week. And whether you're in fashion or you're in CPG or you're in consulting, everyone sort of has a different angle of what they're looking for at Cannes. But it was pretty epic. Jose, Lisa, any takeaways from your time on our boat?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you that for me, this year was the year of the and. It felt like there was a technology conference going on, and there was a business conference going on, and there was a culture and a social and a fashion conference going on, and there was the Cannes Lions Festival of Creativity going on. So, you know, it was a week that probably lasted a month long. But for me, the energy, the optimism, the show of force from creativity and technology is like nowhere else in the world.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add to that is, so I was a Cannes newbie this year. So coming in, first timer, no idea what to expect going in. And I think for me, it's just, you know, Cannes was unlike any other conference that you would go to, be it CMOs or anyone else that you kind of, any conference you go to. And it really is what Jose just said. It's it's the multiple layers. It's like this multi-layer cake. And you just got to figure out like which layer you want to dive into, because there's just so much at Cannes to figure out, to take away, and to really experience.
Absolutely. And I think you just said that so well, Jose, because there are people who are from the business side. You know, we had our friends at TikTok and Salesforce and LinkedIn joining us. Then we had people who are very much on the brand side, big delegations from companies like PepsiCo, from P&G, from Henkel, from Bayer, who bring, you know, their global marketing leaders together. Then we had sort of like newbies on the scene. You know, we had the Tubies of the world join us. And increasingly, you know, companies who haven't always gone to Cannes, but are going, whether it's for creative inspiration, to sort of understand what's happening in the zeitgeist of culture, or just to make new connections. So I think that it continues to evolve and get bigger and bigger. One thing that's really interesting, I think there's like, you know, 16,000 people who actually have badges, which that's like fewer people than go to, you know, a big sports game. So it's small, but the impact of this is really so tremendous because of all the things that we just mentioned. When you've got the Kelsey brothers there, you know it's actually happening in culture.
That's right.
So now we'll hop into our sort of first kind of key themes. Whether you're there or not, these are things that we think people can pick up and sort of understand and learn from. First is communities. So Cannes can be a very big place, a very overwhelming place. And what I observed was there were these sort of community meetups where people got really excited. And here you can see some of the stuff that stood out to us, whether it was, you know, Black Week showing up strong, or it was the Gold House community gathering together, or the Patau community. In the midst of all these big things, people are actually seeking communities of shared values. Even alumni networks. This is kind of funny, but we do this annual thing with the P&G alumni brunch, because in the midst of all this craziness, people are actually looking for more meaningful sort of connections with communities of shared values. Did you all observe any of that happening?
Absolutely. I mean, for me, I think that was the one thing that makes the largest and expansiveness of Cannes actually be navigatable, is that you can find these communities to actually lean into. So anything, as you said, from communities happening with Patau to you had communities happening around the female and the equality lounge. You could literally find your way in this without feeling lost, which was really important. But what was actually interesting was to see the overlap of those communities. So you'd move from one to the other, and it was you know, very, very fluid, super fluid organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, you know, the community of creative leaders that I interact with at Cannes, it gives me the opportunity to share, you know, topics, challenges, opportunities with other creative leaders, and just kind of brainstorm and see how people are approaching, you know, this right, technology and design, or business and sustainability. Those conversations are the ones that I think at Cannes, you know, I value the most.
I love that, and I think that the creativity was just the biggest theme all week. Of course, the Cannes Lion Festival creativity, like that's the reason people are there. That's the reason people were originally going. And you know, what you can see here on this screen is the Young Lions, which is a group that we host every year. Super fun. Of course, the awards are a huge driver, and you know, the number of award submissions continues to go in one direction, and that is up, up, up. But I actually feel like creativity is a theme even outside of the palette, like just everywhere. It's like, how can we be creative in all these different ways, whether it's sustainability or whether it's you know, product innovation, or whether it's something like the awards, which are of course a little bit more of a traditional structure. From my POV, I feel like Cannes has expanded well beyond just the awards. And Jose, you and I were sort of batting around some thoughts earlier around the sort of importance of young creatives attending this festival. A lot of people say that most of the attendees are too old, but you said you actually saw a lot of more young emerging creatives. Can you share a little bit about that?
I did. I was actually really excited to see that part. You know, I think one of the comments I made to you was the young people didn't want to hang out with the old people, which is probably why the old people didn't see them all. You know, for me, this is the most important part of this festival is the sustainability, not the world sustainability, but the sustainability of the business itself over time. You know, I don't want to be the last creative director on earth. I want there to be a continuation of creativity. And I think you're 100% right. The Festival of Creativity, one of the things that I was the most curious about coming in was how we would evolve the definition of creativity itself to include all of these other things that were happening, right? And so to stick with my theme, I think what we saw this year was creativity and creators. And creators come in all shapes and sizes. Gary, you know, in the opening did an incredible job of making reference to that. And I think that we are starting to see that take center stage at a place like Cannes, where you have a festival of creativity that's awarding marketing work that is spectacular.
Yes.
And you also have the continuation of creativity as a business tool happening in all these other locations. Seeing the young lions is my favorite part. And even if you see them on the street, the energy that they're bringing to Cannes as a festival, I think we're going to see that for years and years to come.
I love that. I love that. Lisa, any perspective from your side?
I would never try to top that.
Exactly. He said it well. I love it. Very inspiring. Well. So the next big thing is culture. So people are there for the awards, but we are seeing a ton of Hollywood stars who are coming, whether it's Issa Rae. I got, you know, no big deal. Got to be on a panel with her. Pretty exciting. Issa Rae, who is just like an icon for culture and for driving, you know, youth culture and inspiring the next generation of social creators to make it to the big screen. We saw Chrissy Teigen, John Legend, Deepak Chopra. Like there was just this amazing blend of sort of culture makers and shapers from different parts of the world. And of course, they're all coming because they want to meet brands. If you want to meet CMOs, this is probably the single best place to be, like in the world this week in Cannes. But I thought it was really interesting because a lot of them are not even familiar with the awards. I talked to them and I'm like, you know, are you going to walk the work? They're like, what does that mean? But they're here to sort of be a part of the zeitgeist of culture and also inspire marketers in a new way. Lisa, from a CMO perspective, you know, how do you think that fits in the zeitgeist of Cannes?
Well, I think it kind of overlaps. You talk about the rise of the influencer. Right. And influencer has taken this interesting journey, I think, from it was influencer, then it became kind of gratuitous product placement to it's actually back to being true influencers. And I think what you're starting to see from, you know, the stars, we saw Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird. You saw Bozma, who's on a panel, who's now going to be a former CMO of Netflix and is now going to be in Desperate Housewives of Beverly Hills. They're all there for a reason because this personalization of the brand becomes really important. And so as you find these people who are their authentic selves and are leaning into it, I think you're finding really interesting product placements. Like Ludacris was on stage at one point and someone was asking him like, what brands do you rep? He was like, only the ones I use every day. He was like, so I actually am in with Jif because I eat peanut butter every day. Right. So they're like, okay, you know, in this, it's very authentic. You've got the Kelsey brothers, very authentic. And so I do think you're seeing this move back to influencers and authenticity and really kind of interlinking that product brand with their personal brand, which is really interesting.
I love that. And they really are. And a lot of them, like, fun fact, Issa actually has a Prosecco line, which was featured on our boat called Viv Ray. Chrissy's got Cravings, you know, Deepak's got Deepak.ai. A lot of these, you know, culture makers and big names, they also are entrepreneurs and they're there as well to find ways that they can, you know, learn about how to market these things too, which I think is also just super cool. This is a little bit more of a controversial take, Jose. I'm gonna ask you about this one. Fashion. This is, I heard from a CMO client that she was like, I feel like this is like adult Coachella with all of the outfits. People are dressed to kill. They are looking great. There was like outfits to a T. There were fashion shows, and there's actually a lot of fashion brands attending. From Coach to American Eagle to LVMH brands. Like, fashion brands haven't historically been at Cannes Lion, but this year they definitely were. I didn't see you before I wrote this slide, but we've graduated from the creative director black tee, which used to be Oliver Cann. He's got the glasses, he's got the black tee, probably a cool hat. It used to just be all people who were wearing black t-shirts. Now I was seeing some real outfits of the day. Any thoughts, guys? Was I alone in seeing this?
No, absolutely not alone. And I think it has to do with people wanting to find expression. And I think fashion is a creative expression, right? So for me, being in a place that celebrates creativity, there's a very natural openness. There's a natural desire to express yourself in very creative ways. And I think, by the way, this goes a bit to the end, right? As the festival has become tech and business and creativity and social, then you have this confluence of people that are much more expressive in different ways than in the black t-shirt, right? I think we're just going to continue to see that.
I love it. And you're like, black t-shirts can still be dressing very creatively. So that was very fun. And I think we saw that all over the place. There was like outfit changes happening. Oh, yeah. Very exciting. Another big theme this year, which we actually haven't seen as much in the past few years, but this year was really strong, was this idea of the retail media network. And of course, these are media vendors. It's the Instacarts, it's the Amazons, but there are also ones who are kind of jumping onto the scene, whether it's United Airlines with launching their connective new media network, or Chase Media Solutions, something that they just debuted earlier this year. What to me this signals is this idea that if you own your customer data, you can monetize it in ways that are creative in and of themselves, right? If you have that direct relationship with your customer, Avery is flying from Miami to Newark once a week. You then kind of understand something really interesting that might be interesting to advertisers. So I think this is a big trend that we've seen impacting CPG for the last few years, but now it's really starting to impact all different industries and serve as both a new media channel and a new media discipline, and as a new way for big companies to monetize. Did you guys get a chance to check out any of these?
I did. And I'll build a little bit on Avery. I think what we're starting to see, and I know we've gone what, 10 minutes into this podcast, not saying the dreaded two words AI.
They're coming.
But, you start to think about who is going to actually own the channel, and people who have the channel and have the eyeballs. I think you're going to start to see these people come up in prominence. And so you have this, connective, even on the plane, I was on United on the way over, and they're already advertising connective. Right. I'm based in Denver, Colorado, and I about fell over when I saw Ibotta, talking about it. But then you actually start to think about, like, what do these people have in common, right? They do have, as you said, they have the first party data that's there. They have the audience, and how do you actually start to use that in a different way, in a different era? And those will potentially be some of the bigger winners as you go through. So the takeaway as you talk to an Instacart or these things is that, how do you actually, as a marketer, be it B2C or in our world, even B2B, how do you think about working with these individuals and really kind of shaking it up, because they are the and?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be really interested to see how this matures from just sending me more stuff to buy to how do I create a loyalty experience with the people that have chosen my brand and that I have data about them to add actual value to that exchange versus just selling me more stuff when I get on the plane, right? That's going to tune me out.
Yep.
Versus when I get on the plane, I'm using the plane example because you brought it up.
Yeah.
What can I learn about the destination? What added value can you bring because you know me, you know where I'm going, and not just sell me, a bottle of something that I don't need.
I think what's really interesting, we'll just hit the plane one, is in private aviation, this has been going on for years upon years. So finally to see it come more into what I call commercial aviation is interesting, because in private aviation, those screens that you have from vendors such as GoGo, et cetera, they are fully customized on content that is there, because they not only know your previous viewing history and profiles, they know, to your point, your destination, both where you started and where you're going. So to see, the kind of the more commercialization come at it is really kind of quite interesting. It'll be interesting to see how far you carry that over. Like, do you carry it over like when you walk onto the jet bridge? Do all of a sudden all the digital display ads change based off of the viewing habits that you just saw on the plane? Because how they're interacting in the plane, you can carry that over to another environment. So as we start to knit these together so they're not siloed, will be where we'll start to get to some interesting intersections.
Yeah, I think that both of you are bringing up really interesting points around, okay, great. Is this just going to mean like now I'm grocery shop? Every time I'm grocery shopping, I'm getting served more ads. Every time I'm on a plane, I'm getting served more ads. The answer is yes, but can those be actually added value? And from an advertiser perspective, how do you price those things, right? Because in CPG, they just are like kind of choking out the brands as they develop their own private label solutions in a context like, I'll give Chase Media Solutions just because I'm more familiar with what they do. We do a lot of work with Chase. It's really interesting because the advertiser only pays if someone actually buys something. So it's almost more of that like, pay for performance model. And that to me is also somewhat interesting because then I'm getting a discount as a customer. It's like, okay, cool. Maybe I'm going to try this new restaurant or try this new store and I get a discount and I'm paying with my Chase card. So that actually starts to feed that feedback loop of being useful for the advertiser and for the customer, which is like the magic opportunity. And the fact that they were at Cannes shows that they're putting some real oomph into this. They're looking to court advertisers to get their big JBPs, et cetera. We also saw this sort of next generation of talent. So we talked about the culture makers, but we also saw this generation of social first talent creators that I can say a lot of my clients, they didn't know who these people were. I'm like, hey, that's Alex Earle. They're like, who's Alex Earle? I'm like, she's like the most famous person like on TikTok now. But it's interesting because very often these creators are flown out by the platforms, whether it's a Snapchat or a TikTok or a Meta. They bring these creators out to sort of experience the magic of Cannes Lion and also speak to how these creators have built their brands on the platform. This was also the first year that Cannes Lion actually did their own creator programming, which kind of signals that it's a macro from above push. But I thought that this was a big thing that we haven't seen as much as we have this year. From a creator POV, they're figuring out the world of advertising. They might have millions of followers themselves, but they're figuring out this more traditional world of advertising. And it's funny because often they're like, what an archaic way to do things. I'm like, oh yeah, that's how it works in traditional ad land. They're like, I just post it. Right. What do you all think about this like slew of creators descending on the Croisette?
You want to take that, Jose?
I love it. I love it. I think it's gonna put pressure both ways, right? Like this is one of the things I was really interested in is what's the definition of creativity and how is it changing over time, right? Now we've got this democratization of all of these creators being able to launch their own platforms, own their own brands, create their own content. What I'm the most interested to see is what happens after this first wave. Like, does this inspire another wave of creators? And then the promise of AI really comes into play because it's able to connect all these pieces together much more quickly than we can as individual humans. But we still need that creative idea. We still need that brand idea to curate through this universe of creators that are generating content. I think that's when it'll get really interesting. I'm interested.
It's such a good point because the creators are doing things like very much their way for talent POV. And by the way, a lot of their income comes from brands. Right. They do a lot of brand deals, but from a brand perspective, it's still important to own that narrative, have your own clear communication that can kind of transcend all of the noise that's happening through all of these awesome people who are really creative and doing their own thing. And, also finding a lot of success on these social platforms.
Agreed.
On a slightly different angle, one thing that I observed, and I saw a lot of people posting about this on LinkedIn, was the emergence of families ultimately joining executives at at Cannes because it's a week long. Of course, you're working the whole time. It's crazy busy, but I saw a lot of kids, whether they were babies or toddlers or teenagers, accompanying execs, a lot of spouses and a lot of parents. You can see Gary's dad there. If anyone was, past him this week, his favorite hat says "Proud Dad of Gary V." He's wearing our Mad Happy VaynerX Cannes scarf. And I think it's really underscores the growing trend that like work-life balance is more like work-life integration, especially to people who have these really high-powered jobs where they're working the whole time and they want to find ways to include their family, with them. Did you all see this? Any thoughts on this kind of coming together?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think I like the work-life integration versus the balance. I'm going to start using that, Avery, because it is really about, how do you flex your life and kind of put these people together? And I would tell you from, once again, first time Cannes, I will probably bring my family next year. Less about, just make sure that they're there. But like, if you go back to what we were just talking about, the creator, I've got a young munchkin, she's Gen Alpha, and she's thinking about like, I can do all this stuff. I want to be the TikTok star. And like just starting to get her to understand a little bit more of the reality and how has it come to, and like see the whole chain is, it's a great way. And it's not like I'm trotting her into like a conference, right? It is definitely a little bit more fun. So
it's during summer break, which is great. You're like, okay, you're out of school. Maybe you can come along with mom to this really exciting thing. And maybe you're going to learn a thing or two.
Exactly.
I definitely noticed it. When I landed Sunday morning, which was Father's Day in the US, one of the first things I did was call home. And I made the comment to my wife, hey, there's a lot of kids here. I noticed it. It stood out to me. There were a lot of kids. And I saw them throughout the week. It wasn't just that they came in and then left when the conference started. You're right. There was an integration of, I'm going to bring the things that are important to me, including being at the conference and learning and sharing creativity. I'm going to bring the people in my life to that. So absolutely, I noticed it more than any other year.
And I think it's really nice too, because a lot of these, executives are also showing that you can, be on stage, you can be running a team, and you can be working crazy hours, and you can also have your family, you can have your spouse. Lauren, who's the president of Black Week, brought her 2 teenage kids, and they were sitting in on panels, and she's like, I want them to learn. Yeah. I want them to hear this type of thing. And of course, you're in the south of France, like they get to spend a little time with mom and dad during breaks or dinners or whatever it is. But, at the female quotient, I saw Tarek and Carla, Hassan's daughter, she was interning there, like working the desk and things like that as a way to learn as well. So there's a lot of like really cool stuff that I saw happening as a way to integrate it. Of course, you're not bringing your kids on a boondoggle, they're learning, and like at times they're contributing as well. But I think it's a growing trend, because pre-COVID, I don't think you would have seen that. Gary bringing his parents to like the work thing would not have happened, right? But now it's like, okay, awesome. They can learn a bit about our business. They can share a little bit with us too. So I thought that was just like really fun and really cool, and something I think we'll see more and more of.
Yeah, I agree. The kids are probably protecting you from the boondoggle. It's hard to go
exactly
to the gutter bar at 3:00 in the morning when your kids are waiting for you.
Nope.
There you go.
Can't do that.
I need to bring my daughter to be my shield then.
Yes.
Save me from that.
Yeah. And I saw it just with so many different people, especially like executive level, who have sort of teenage kids, because they're also able to learn and get so much out of it. What an amazing privilege. And it's summer break. So the other big theme that I think we can't forget about this year was just like the power of, I would say, women, but also women's sports, in specific women's sports. We had Sue Bird, we saw Megan Rapinoe, we saw just so many of these like big names. Halle Berry was even running with the Olympic torch. There was a lot on women's sports, and hats off to the guys and gals at Stagwell for putting on a really incredible programming at Sports Beach. I thought they did an amazing job with that and attracted athletes from all different disciplines and walks of life. But on top of that, and this, athletes are there to sort of court brand partners and get to know more about the world of advertising. But I think more at a macro level, Lisa, you mentioned that the female quotient in the Equality Lounge. I think just like the power of the female dollar, the power of women was just like, I just felt it this year.
Yeah, I think that one of my biggest takeaways, and I came back and I told my team this already, was I'm a big believer in not just thinking about someone's, what their share of wallet is, their share of mind, but how do you get to share a heart and share of lifestyle? And the share of lifestyle and getting to kind of intersect with people in a downtime moment, I think is, a little bit more apparent, I think, for B2C brands, but even in a B2B world, incredibly important. And what I'm seeing and really here and also is emphasized at South by Southwest is women in sports, and that you may not, just the incredibly high engagement rates that you have around this one. So I came back and just already said, like, look, I'm carving off part of my marketing budget and I want you guys to go experiment. Like, tell me how this is going to work. How do we do this? What's the right kind of play with women in sports and the EY brand as we look at building the EY brand? But it was, once again, the folks at Stagwell, amazing job.
Great job.
They brought in such high-powered individuals, and it was, once again, I go back to this authentic. I believe in kind of walk the authentic walk. It really felt like they weren't pandering to get a sponsorship or a brand, but it really was kind of a great discussion that was there. So just loved seeing it, loved seeing, the Megan Rapinoe, Stu Bird at the Business Insider breakfast, and just so many more people on stage that just are really advocating not just to build a brand, but really advocating for women's sports in general and the power of women's sports. It was great to see.
I love that. And I think your point on authenticity is very well placed, because right now, like, women's basketball is like, we're all seeing the Caitlin effect there, but there are so many other sports where women are absolutely crushing it. I feel like there's some underpriced pockets of opportunity there as well. And Sue actually specifically said that in a talk that she was giving. Lisa, you and I got to hang out with her at South by, but she was like, there's more than just women's basketball. There's women's sports across the spectrum. So they're all kind of getting their time to shine. Okay, Jose, you've mentioned this twice now, so I know it's top of your mind. AI. I think AI was almost too obvious to include because everybody talked about it. So we saved it for last. But it was really everywhere during Cannes Lion, from talks to small intimate sessions to platforms. TikTok announced this really cool thing that they have called Symphony AI. We saw announcements from Tubi and Time partnering on, not Tubi, Fox and Time partnering on a verification platform. We did a CMO circle on AI. What did you all think about this? I heard a lot of marketers who are like, I'm all in, and a lot of marketers who are like, I haven't seen the value yet.
You want it, Jose? You want me?
Yeah. So I think in contrast to last year, same time, where you couldn't order an AI coffee without an AI prompt to get the AI human to AI deliver the AI coffee that you just AI ordered. That sort of frenzy last year of the buzzwords in all the conversation, you just couldn't get away from it.
Right.
What I felt this year was much more purposeful. Yes, AI is in the conversation, and I think it will continue to be in the conversation, but there was a huge difference from last year to this year where we actually saw the application of it pragmatically. Hey, we're using it to accomplish this outcome that we couldn't have otherwise done at scale with humans driving it. We needed the AI because we needed the scale and the speed. We needed to produce this campaign in real time where we could change out the creative images in real time when somebody adopted a pet. The application of it was, I think, much more mature this year than at least last year, for sure.
It was hype cycle last year, right? And this year you were like, okay, yeah, people are actually doing some things.
Correct. And I think that we'll continue to see that moving forward. There was much more emphasis on, now we understand that creativity is important, and we can put it with AI to create an outcome. It's not an or, it's an and.
Yeah, I think that I'll just continue to build on that one. One of the things that you see so often is AI is a bolt-on. It's an adjunct. Buy this AI module and you can do X, Y, Z. What we're seeing now is AI really embedded in solutions, which is a pro, and also I think it's going to be a challenge for marketers, right? Because at one point, how many of my different agencies do I work with that have their own AI module or whatever their fuel is that's going to be in there, and when do things potentially start to cancel out the benefits? So that was one. But two, you are seeing these proof of concepts come to life. I mean, H&R Block just for the entire tax season had all AI in it. It's phenomenal to see the uplift that people are doing. And the third thing I think you're starting to see is we're just as a marketing organization and a marketer organization around how do you use AI? Yes, for productivity, which is, I tell my team, I'm like, don't be afraid of AI. I mean, you're back to back in meetings every day. You're supposed to be creative on the 5 minutes you walk to the bathroom. Now maybe AI can actually give you this space, take the mundane off and give you the space to really be creative. So don't be afraid of it, kind of embrace that as you go through it. But the next step change is going to be is when we actually don't look at it just as productivity, but how do we actually just full on tear down every single business process that we have around it and rebuild it with AI at the core, once again, not an adjunct. So I do think we're just, in our own organizations and professions, we're just at the beginning. But it was really good to see it being, at least it can, much more integrated than I see at other conferences that I go to, where it still feels a little bolt on.
Yep.
I think that's a really good point. I think that we are seeing some brands like run for it and use it for various like tasks of automation and sometimes like full on, creative launches. But I think that the hype cycle has cooled off a lot. Even if you look at Google Trends, it's cooled off. And now we're finding how can I actually use this to actually drive efficiency? And how can I do this in a legally and ethically compliant manner, which is a huge thing that a lot of our clients are asking for our help with. So it was the talk of the town, but there's still a lot of fluff. I think that it'll continue to be, to me, it's it'll continue to be integrated more and more and more and more through a combination of the marketing organizations and functions and the technology organizations and functions. Because I'm seeing a lot of this is actually driven not necessarily by the CMO, but by the CTO, by the IT infrastructure as ways, Lisa, to your point, to help teams get more efficient and more effective at their jobs.
Yeah, I think, the thing is AI brings great power, right? But with great power comes great responsibility. And so if you think about this, at the end of the day, AI is about how do we get more velocity, but velocity is just how do you think about speed plus direction?
Yeah.
AI is going to give us a speed. The direction, the directional compass and what we need to do still needs to come from a human, right? And so as we as marketers think about how you use AI to get that speed piece, we have to be really careful that we're also protecting our brand, our consumers, our customers, everything around that by putting that compass into place that gives us the right direction.
Couldn't agree more. Last theme here, we always think about this at Vayner, but we feel like social is finally being taken seriously. The who does the big activations at Cannes changes over time. Jose's nodding because he knows. It used to be the agencies, then it was the media platforms. Right now it's the social platforms. They go big, whether it's Pinterest and their Manifestival, which I loved, A+ production on that one, or Influential Beach, who did the TikTok Awards, or Reddit, or Meta. There was a lot of these sort of social activations that happen on the Quaset, and also a lot of awards, both official Cannes Lion categories in the social and influencer category, and sort of adjunct awards that were simultaneously happening. I think social people are waking up to the fact that brand is built on social, and that social is not an add-on or a bolt-on. It can be the lifeblood of marketing organizations. So I saw this and Gary touched on this a bit, but I think that it is starting to shift, right? Even a lot of those big winning ideas from the Grand Prix, a lot of them started on social. People are starting to take this more seriously. Jose, as someone who's been at the heart of a lot of these big creative ideas, what do you think? It's
the most direct way for you to have a relationship and a conversation with someone. And I think we're going to see it more and more and more. You're 100% right. This aspect of the festival was incredible. It felt fresh. It felt like people were involved finally, that it got some attention. I think that brands will realize that social is the most human one-to-one relationship.
Mm-hmm.
We need to clip that, team, because that was so well said.
Love it.
Amazing. Yeah, I think that it is. And people are realizing yes, of course, films are important, but if no one sees them, did they matter? Did they drive brand awareness and affiliation? And I think that kind of brings me to our like key takeaways. I'm feeling this big push towards effectiveness at the awards, which like work that works is important. You know, I talk to, you know, people who are newer to the industry and they're like, wait, there's a whole separate category for effectiveness awards. Shouldn't the creative awards be effective? And we're like, yeah, but those are the FEs, it's different. So, you know, if we think about our key thoughts coming out of Cannes, it's partially that there's no such thing as good and bad. It all depends on the price tag and the performance. Like effectiveness is really top of mind for marketers right now. We touched on this a little bit, but navigating the fluff of AI, I'm going to, you know, insert a quote that Gary said that really stood out to me. I think, Lisa, you were there when he said this. In all this talk about AI this week, the most powerful AI tools are the organic algorithms of the top 7 social platforms, which I think it's so poignant. And we know that to be true as consumers, but somehow we forget it as marketers, that like, you know, TikTok knowing that a video is going to get 8 impressions versus 8 million. That's all AI. It's all like knowing Avery's going to like this and Lisa's going to like this and Jose's going to like this. I'm going to serve it up to them specifically. And then Jose, last to your point, social is really redefining creative excellence. The little idea that starts on social, people are waking up to like, it's not the 23-year-old intern, right? Or it might be, and that person might be winning a Cannes Lion. But brands need to day trade attention and be active on places where their consumers are active. And we can't just rely on that one big idea that takes us through many years as a, you know, heart-wrenching TVC. So these are 3 big things that we're thinking about and working with our partners on to sort of activate in the back half of the year. And, you know, Cannes Lion is so incredible and inspiring and amazing. And at Vayner, I know we're just so excited to take some of this inspiration and convert it into action. So many great ideas that happened that we discussed last week. We're already sprinting to make them happen and bring them to life. But, you know, it's always our favorite week of the year, getting to hang out with a lot of the best creative minds, the best marketing minds, and, you know, a couple of cool people as well. Really helps make Cannes Lion amazing for us. Any final wrap-up thoughts from you all?
No, I think that's great. I think that, you know, it just from, once again, I took my Cannes newbie. I think the you know, the proof is what we do with this going forward. So how do we take all these so what's and these findings and put them into action, find the small experiments, and that if you aren't doing it, what you're going to do with it. And if you're already in it, like how are you going to continue to evolve it, measure it so that you can share it with the rest of us next year at Cannes?
Love it. Love it. As not a Cannes newbie, I'm excited when people experience it for the first time. Like, I love it. I love it. Every time I go, it feels like the first time.
It's amazing. And no 2 Cannes are the same. I've only been 5 times, so I'm not as much of a veteran as you, but every time I feel like I have a different perspective, come up with different ideas, different connections. And I want to thank you all for being such incredible partners to us throughout the week. It was amazing. And I'm so glad we had the chance to do this little wrap up of the key themes. I loved your perspective, Jose, from the CCO angle, and Lisa from the CMO angle. And for all of our friends tuning in on Vayner channels, if any of these struck a chord with you, if you want to chat more, DM us, drop us a comment. And we are so appreciative to everyone for taking the time to join us. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.